ingredients. You won't find artificial flavors, colors, or preservatives at Cafe Latte, just pure quality. Whether it's a sweet treat or a gourmet meal, head to Victoria and Grand for Cafe Latte. More at cafelatte.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Broadcasting live on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. In the evenings on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk. In Seattle in the afternoon drive and the nighttime hours, 1150 AM KKNW. And, of course, on BAM, the Blue Amp Media Network at blueamp.co on Substack. It is the Matt McNeil Show for your Tuesday. Good to have you with us today. Patrick Cooligan from the Minnesota Reformer joins us in the next hour. Patrick is with us here today. Hello, Patrick. How are we today?
Good afternoon, Matt. How are you today?
Good afternoon. I am doing very well. It's kind of one of the things I'm kind of getting into spring mode right now. I'm starting to change over my food palette. Do you do that where there are certain things you have at certain times of the year?
Yeah, that's something I've noticed. I've kind of had a different food craving over the last week or couple weeks than I had for a while.
I finally figured out how to grill salmon. And so I had salmon and a salad last night. It's like, ooh, like I'm eating in summertime, that sort of thing. Ooh. As opposed to like pot roast and soups I have all the winter, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you kind of go to that lighter fare.
Yeah, well, kind of. You know, it just is there. I mean, I'm 57 years old. So at this point, I mean, kind of my body goes through, okay. It's like I generally will have, of all things, split pea soup because Easter, I have a ham bone. Got to do something with it. So into the pot it goes and put in with some, split peas and off I go. A lot of fresh cracked pepper. Delicious. It's that sort of thing. The times, the seasons, they change. And now we're kind of getting towards the end of March. We're in Minnesota. So it's now in southern Minnesota, northern Minnesota. Good luck with all that up there. But we're starting to thaw out, which is nice. I'm going to start off today, Patrick, and I want you to listen to the entire first paragraph of this story before and just let it sink in, seep in like a marinade on a fine steak. Okay, here, you ready? A county sheriff's office in Maryland said Monday that a professional cornhole player, who's also a quadruple amputee, fatally shot a passenger in the front seat of the car he was driving during an argument. Okay. There's a lot there to unpack. The most jarring thing, there are professional cornhole players?
Yeah, I've been watching the story go national over the last couple of days, and I'm just kind of like, what the hell?
It's time for comedy improv news. Give me a profession. Professional cornhole player. And by the way, for the people out there thinking I'm saying something naughty and dirty, oh yeah, cornhole is that thing where you got the bean bags and the wood plank, and you try to get the hole, across the way. You find it in bars and stuff, right?
Yeah. Yep, that's the one.
You find it in backyards and things. It's like it's something you see at tailgating at football games and stuff like that. It's I didn't realize there was a professional circuit out of there, but okay. Dayton James Weber, 27, was arrested and charged as a fugitive from justice by police in Albemarle County, Virginia, and the Charles County Sheriff's Office said Charles County is seeking his extradition from Virginia, so he'll be charged with first-degree murder, second-degree murder, and related charges. Weber was profiled by ESPN in 2023. According to his parents, doctors amputated his arms and legs when he was 10 months old to save his life after he contracted a blood infection that led to sepsis. Okay. Went on to become a professional player of cornhole, in game in which players throw beanbags through a hole on a slanted wooden board to score points. I'm going to guess. What do you think of professional corn? I bet this guy clears $500,000 a year. What do you bet?
Yeah, that's got to be that good.
Oh, it's seriously. It's got to be. There's got to. He's using our bag, is he? When I've got their bag in my hands, boy, I can tell the difference. Can you? Okay, all right. The ads write themselves for that industry, doesn't it? We've got a hole for you now? You see, I can't. Come on, man! You can't give me a story like this. You cannot give me a story like this. Apparently, Weber pulled over after the shooting in La Plata, Maryland, and asked 2 passengers in the back of the car to help pull the victim out. So there was 2 other guys in the car. The witnesses apparently refused to be part of the crime spree. And then they got out of the car and flagged down police officers. That led Weber to fled with the victim still in the car. 2 hours later, a resident of Charlotte Hall, about 10 miles drive away, reported a body in the yard. Officers found their... By the way, that is not easy to do. I mean, okay. The man's a quadriplegic. He's driving, obviously. He shot him? Okay. But then, a body's heavy. A body is heavy. That's not easy to... If I had to get Patrick out of a car right now, and I'm giving you a ride home later, but don't think of anything about this. Just ignore this part of the story, okay? If I was to drag your body out of the car, Patrick, that's some work. And just because it's, I've done this in the fireman's carry when I was in the military, when you had to kind of get somebody off the battlefield. It's not easy to do, man.
Yeah, and for those of you who have not seen me in person, it's going to take you more work than it would take you to move a lot of other people.
Okay. 2 hours later, once again, found the body in the yard. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Just not sleepy. The American Cornhole League. What? Really? Now that sounds like an OnlyFans page. The American Cornhole League, hello ladies, posted a statement on its Facebook page saying it was aware of allegations involving Weber, but it would not comment on what it called an active legal situation while proceedings were ongoing. Did he hit the hole with the body? I mean, it's a hard throw sometimes. You got to sometimes knock the other bag off or the other body off into the... Well, never mind. All right. I'm getting the light and airy stuff out of the way now because this is just a crap fest of a news day. And yeah. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Let's head over to the Middle East. Iran's military has promised to fight until the bitter end against the U.S. and Israel after rejecting Trump's claims that America had been holding productive peace talks with Tehran. That doesn't sound like peace talks. When you're like, how did the peace talks go today? Well, they're promising to try to kill us all. So, one step forward, 2 steps back. I don't know how you say it. Trump lied. Well, Trump is a consummate liar. This is the craziest part. And Jon Stewart last night on The Daily Show made this point. He said, usually you would believe your own person, but it's so clearly that the people who are telling the truth here are the Iranians and not the lying gas bag that's Trump. And this is an embarrassment. This is all such unfreaking precedented territory. I made the point yesterday. We talked about the fact that someone had insider information that Trump's Truth Social post was going to come on out and was buying and selling accordingly on the markets, the oil market and the stock market, to basically try to position themselves in a better light. I wanted to stop right there. If you had even the suggestion that a Democratic president was giving insider information to official policies they were putting on their social media page. Dear God, what a freaking nightmare timeline we're in right now. But if you had the inclination that a Democratic president went on to his social media page and was putting out information, but was leaking that information to other people beforehand, and that somebody was using that information to manipulate their own individual wealth, there would be 400 freaking investigations, many of them called by Democrats. Trump does it, and it's like, oh no, Donald did it again. Burisma, for God's sakes, people. And don't get me wrong, I already know every stinking, stupid, damn, enabling Republican will say the same damn thing. I didn't see that story, Pete. Yeah, you should have. You're a sitting congressman or senator. You should have seen that story. So you're either incompetent or you're compliant. It's one of the two. Ugh. That's how I wake up every day. Ugh. That's just the world we're in right now. A spokesperson for Iran's top military command said on Tuesday that its armed forces will not stop until complete victory, pouring cold water over Trump's statements about a 5-day ceasefire. However, Iranian officials conceded that the U.S. had been in contact through mediators as pressure mounts to come to a resolution after weeks of upheaval across the Middle East. Now, that it sounds like happened after Trump made his initial statement that, oh yeah, I've been talking to him all day. We sat by I had the phone with the long cord and I was in the closet where I can get a little privacy and I was twirling the cord and I was talking about all my favorite things and were they their favorite things. Oh my God, it's like the best time ever. After that is when basically Witkoff and Jared decided to, well, maybe we should actually try to contact somebody. We've received points from the U.S. through mediators are being reviewed, said senior military told CBS News. Pakistan has offered to mediate negotiations with its prime minister, writing on Twitter, once again, worst timeline ever, that the nation stands ready to be honored to be the host to facilitate meaningful and conclusive talks, the competitive settlement of the ongoing conflict. You guys keep acting like this is going to be well, thank God we finally talked. You know, hey, handshake deal. Here's our list. Here's your list. Great. Okay, we're okay. We're walking out the door. This is the Iranians. And by the way, as you're saying this, Israel still keeps bombing them. Yeah. The Pentagon has now chimed in again, and they're going to deploy 3,000 airborne soldiers to the Middle East to support operations in Iran, as Trump claims that the U.S. had productive talks with Tehran were rejected by the Iranian officials. So once again, we're on the verge of peace. I'm sending a bunch of troops over. And by the way, just as a veteran myself, and airborne's pretty badass. I do like the airborne guys. It's a tough bit, and it really is a kind of force overwhelming factor. It is traditionally not been the most successful wave of attack, but at the same time, they have it's a part of the machine when you put it into place, which is kind of hard because there's a difference between doing this with like a D-Day invasion where you have invading forces and you have airborne coming on in versus, well, this is the force we're going to send in because without anyone else, the airborne troops are sitting ducks up in the sky. They just are. So I don't know what your plan is for them, but I want to remind people, Tehran is a 92 million person country. 3,000 airborne troops. Okay. Once again, they're just not taking, they started a war and they're not taking it seriously. We'll take a break, come back. It's the Matt McNeil Show. Get ready for Easter fun with the annual Easter brunch at the Park Tavern. Enjoy Easter ham, all your Easter breakfast and brunch favorites, and all the sides and desserts. Seatings are from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Sunday, April 5th, and you need reservations. $29.95 for adults, $19.95 for those over 65 and under 12 years old, and 5 and under are free. And don't forget the hour of free bowling with every reservation. Call 952-929-6810 on Louisiana Avenue, north of Highway 7 in St. Louis Park. Enjoy a delicious, stress-free Easter with the Park Tavern.
Prime Productions is thrilled to bring the world premiere of Abuelita by Nathan Youngerberg to the Capri Theater March 14th through the 29th. A grandmother from Iowa brings her grandson to meet his Puerto Rican relatives in sweltering New York, 1993. Tabby's world is transformed with music, dancing, and community. Directed by Shay Cage. Pay-as-you-are tickets can be purchased at primeprods.org. That's spelled prime, P-R-O-D-S.org.
Make Libby part of your spring break plans and bring your library wherever you go. With the Libby app from MELSA, the Metropolitan Library Service Agency, you can borrow ebooks, audiobooks, graphic novels, comics, and digital magazines right on your phone, tablet, or Kindle. Just download the Libby app at libbyapp.com, enter your library card, and start reading or listening. Best of all, the app is free, and so are the books, thanks to your public library.
Peace of mind shouldn't cost a fortune. We keep things simple at Schroman Law because we believe planning for your estate and end-of-life care shouldn't be stressful or expensive. Every client relationship starts with a free consultation so clients have the information they need before making important decisions. From there, we work closely with clients to ensure they are choosing the most efficient and cost-effective plans for their specific needs. Schedule a free consultation today at schromanlaw.com. That's SCHROMEN law.com.
Hey, it's Tom Hartman from my friends at All Energy Solar, and I want to talk about something most people don't consider until it's too late. Energy independence isn't just about saving money. It's also about what happens when the grid goes down. Severe weather, aging infrastructure, unexpected outages, they happen, and when they do, most homes go dark. But not homes with solar and battery backup from All Energy Solar. Here's what makes it work. Solar panels charge the battery during the day, so when a storm hits and the grid fails, your home stays powered. Lights, refrigerator, medical equipment, whatever matters most keeps running. All Energy Solar is certified by both Tesla and Enphase for battery storage and has been installing complete solar plus battery systems since 2009. Minnesota battery rebates are also available. Don't wait for the next outage to wish you had acted. Visit allenergysolar.com or call 800-620-3370 for your free evaluation today.
It is the Matt McNeil Show. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. So, back to the 3,000 airborne soldiers getting deployed to the Middle East to support operations in Iran. The U.S. has had productive talks with Tehran and rejected by Iranian officials. Sources say a written order to deploy the 82nd Airborne Division, which can send paratroopers and equipment anywhere in the world within 18 hours, was expected on Tuesday. That's reported by the Wall Street Journal. It is not known where in the Middle East the troops will be sent or when they would be arrive in the region, but it follows reports yesterday the Pentagon was weighing the deployment, which could include seizing Karg Island, Iran's main oil export hub, which would be basically, they'd be sitting ducks, and they would. Any of those islands out there, they'd be sitting ducks. And yeah, they're just, this whole thing is just a mess. I mean, and I'll get to more of this because once again, I think the U.S. wants to get out of it. Israel doesn't want to get out of it. And this is basically leading to Iran is winning at this point because even though we've sunk a lot of their boats and we got rid of their Air Force, we don't want to do what you have to do next. And us walking away at this point, they would basically feel emboldened saying, yeah, all they can do is, hit us from the sky. So, they can hit us from the sky all day long, but, they can't invade. They're never going to take us over. Trump said Iran has agreed to never have a nuclear weapon. They've agreed. This is today. This is once again after the Iranians are like, okay, no, we haven't talked with them. They've agreed they'll never have a nuclear weapon. They've agreed to that. He told reporters on Tuesday. We're in negotiations right now. He said, the other side, I can tell you, they'd like to make a deal. Who wouldn't if you were them? Their Navy is gone. The Air Force is gone. Their communications are gone. Can you name one thing that's not gone? Can you give me one thing that's doing well? Well, they've not surrendered. So we are here's the line, which we are roaming free over Tehran. We can do whatever we want. Now, I'm presuming he's talking about our planes. But is he talking? Do we have actually people on the ground in Tehran? I'd hope not. As you know, today we are going to have the privilege of shooting down a very big electric plant, and we held off based on the fact that we're negotiating. No, you held off because you basically gave them a timeline until Monday evening. Then before you got to that timeline, you said you're going to give them a 5-day extension. And that was after Iran said, fine, do this and we'll knock out every water plant and power plant in the Middle East. To which immediately all of our allies go, what? No, we're not ready to prepare to defend all those. So, yeah. Axios is reporting the U.S. and a group of regional and mediators are discussing the possibility of holding high-level peace talks with Iran, which once again points to this. They're just having discussions of, do you want to chat? So anytime Trump says, Iran's begging me for to stop, They're offering me a delicious strawberry orange Julius, and I will think about whether I want that. I usually don't like fruit, but fine. Whenever you hear him say anything like this, what you're actually hearing is he's just making this up. He is just making all of this up. He's not on the phone with them. They're not having negotiations. They're just not. Determined to humiliate Donald Trump's efforts to extract his country from war, Tehran has launched waves of attacks across the Arabian Gulf. No matter that Pakistan has said it hopes to direct talks between the U.S. and Iran sometime this week. Iran surrogates have seen an opportunity. Trump wants to get out of this conflict. Israel does not. And that basically they believe it has achieved their aims. Iran's regime has fomented instability across the Middle East for decades. It's killed Americans and many other Westerners, run Hezbollah in Lebanon, backed Hamas in Gaza. And yet the global perspective of that war, which is already hobbling global fuel supplies and will have a far greater economic consequences, is all the fault of America and Israel. The Ayatollahs have blamed the great Satan in the United States and little Satan in Israel, and even its enemies and rivals are starting to agree with that, this is not good. Because we're so mismanaging this, that we should have never done this in the first. You should have just stayed with Barack Obama's Iranian deal. U.S. aims in Iraq are opaque. Regime change, protect the civilian protesters, breaking the military, ending Iran's nuclear program. The consequences of trying to do so have either been obscure and apart from the White House. Iran would defend itself, survive the decapitation of its leadership, attack U.S. allies in the Gulf, and close the Strait of Hormuz were blindingly obvious, yet the risks that Israel was prepared to take an effort to destroy the regime that threatens its existence. Israel, because once again, this is all Israel. This is Netanyahu. It's not Israel. It's Netanyahu. This is all Netanyahu. He wants to do this. Netanyahu has been asked by the U.S. to hold off on attacking Iran's energy systems alongside the 5-day pause in the U.S. bombardment against the power plants ordered by Trump. He said this was to allow talks, which he said had gone well in advance, but once again, Iran is insisting there's been no direct negotiations or talks. So oil is surging. A fifth of the world's oil and gas usually travels through the 21-mile wide choke point where Iran now has a foot on the neck of the world's energy economy. But between 25 and 30% of the world's fertilizer goes through the artery, and around 50% of the world's, urea, the essential ingredient to industrial fertilizers. Trump is becoming under pressure because the surge in home petrol prices, global food production also hang in the balance, and also farmers cannot get access to afford to buy ingredients to make their crops flourish. There will be a shortage of food, and the instability in the Middle East is certain to spread. For Israel, this is another reason to wipe out the regime in Tehran. The Iranian government's ability to survive and continue to fight means to Netanyahu that the only option is more war. Trump saw no obvious downsides from attacking Iran. He did not see the economic consequences, the diplomatic isolation, which have undermined him at home and made him look variously mad and dim abroad. But they're swimming into focus now. A day late, dollar short. Iran is reportedly demanding that it be left with sovereign choice of nuclear developments, keep its nuclear program, see the back of American forces now based in the Gulf as conditions of a ceasefire. So basically asking for the United States to completely withdraw from the Middle East. Trump demands the opposite. U.S. troops are headed to the Gulf, but he clearly wants out of the whole, incident. That would leave Israel alone, unable to change Iran's regime. Once again, Netanyahu knows that he could not do this by himself. So that's why Netanyahu tricked Trump into doing this. If Iran doesn't have regime change, and Israel is basically left alone, the United States eventually pulls away from this. Even if Iran gives up its nuclear program, it basically is going to look at this as a win. It's going to look at this as a win. Meanwhile, I should mention here really quick before we get to the bottom of the hour break here, Secretary General of the National Bloc center-right secular Lebanese political party has told NBC News that Lebanon is facing an existential crisis among fears of a long-time occupation by Israeli forces in the country's south. The amount of destruction in South Lebanon and in Beirut and in the Bekaa Valley is absolutely disastrous. It's also pushed 1 million Lebanese on the roads. Basically, Israel is taking over the entire southern part of Lebanon They're just doing a massive land grab, which is once again part of Netanyahu's whole goal. It's his new age of empire, and he seems to feel as if he can push the United States around to do his bidding for him, like we're Mongo or something like that, which, kind of we are at this point. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
Come on, it's true. Work is almost bearable when the Stephanie Miller Show is on. AM 950 KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Hi, I'm Mary T. I'm a proud supporter of AM 950 because this station shares the values that I care about most: community, connection, and making a difference. Just like AM 950, I believe in using our energies, our resources, and our voices to lift up others. That's why I started the Mary T. Scholar Program at the University of Minnesota College of Education and Human Development, providing graduate students with internships internationally. For over the past 10 years, our students have served communities in Laos, Cambodia, Nepal, India, Cameroon, and Thailand, gaining experience and helping people in ways that really make a difference. Supporting AM 950 fosters conversation, awareness, and action in our communities. It's about shared values and believing that together we can make a difference. Visit MaryTinc.com to learn more about the work that we do.
March Madness is here, and Popped Corn, that's Popped corn.com, is a game time decision for you. Enjoy your favorite flavor of Popped Corn gourmet popcorn, like cheese made with real cheese, the classic mix, or the featured flavor of Shamrock Caramel. And many college teams are featured on Popped Corn's tins. You can ship your favorite team tin across the USA. Find your team at poppedcorn.com and enter the discount code of Matt to get 10% off your order. That's discount code of MATT at popcorn, Popped corn.com.
Hey, it's Patrick for Zero Res. The end of winter is finally on the horizon, and you're going to start thinking about all that nasty crud that's built up in your home over these last few months. Call my cleaning heroes at Zero Res to help get you an early start on the spring cleanup. Zero Res removes winter's buildup and lingering odors, giving your home a fresh, spring-ready feel. This month, get Zero Resified from Minnesota's #1 carpet cleaner. Buy one room, get another free. Buy another room of carpet cleaning, get another room of carpet done for free. Get the picture? Also this month, get a free size upgrade on every whole home air duct cleaning package. Don't you love when you buy your favorite beverage and get a free size upgrade? That's what Zero Res is doing this month with their whole home air duct cleaning package. Start spring cleaning with a free upgrade and pay less for more fresh. Call Zero Res right now, 9520-RES, or go online to ZeroResMinnesota.com and say you want the AM 950 special. Backward or forward spells the same. Zero Res.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly sunny skies today with a high near 56, tonight cloudy with a low around 41, and Wednesday sunny with a high near 69. The bakery at Cafe Latte features legendary cakes, cupcakes, and fresh-baked breads crafted with real ingredients. You won't find artificial flavors, colors, or preservatives at Cafe Latte, just pure quality. Whether it's a sweet treat or a gourmet meal, head to Victoria and Grand for Cafe Latte. More at cafelatte.com.
AM 950 KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Broadcasting in the evenings on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk. In the afternoon drive and nighttime hours in Seattle, 1150 AM KKNW. On BAM, the Blue Amp Media Network at blueamp.co on Substack. And, of course, in Minneapolis, St. Paul. On AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. It's the Matt McNeil Show. So, yeah, just to surmise that last segment there. Iran basically can consider it a win unless the United States actually does a full ground invasion, which, like I said, my estimate would be a few $1 trillion and at least 300,000 troops, and we'd probably be looking at about 100,000 dead. Because this is not Iran, this is not Venezuela. It is a much more difficult situation. And it's the reason why haven't they already taken those islands? Because they can see that they be sitting ducks. So they're trying to find some way that they can capture one guy and put a gun to their head and say, you better stop. But I read yesterday about remember the bombing off of Sri Lanka of their boat and that let it drown. These people do not want to have a peace, a negotiation, some sort of acquiescing to the United States at this point. That we have done enough in regards to war crimes against them, which we kind of have, the bombing of the school, the blowing up the boat, and then, no quarter, basically allowing them to all drown as Hegseth high fives each other as watching people die in the ocean until the Sri Lankan Navy got out there and tried to save as many of those people as they could. It just, they already know that the only way that they will be defeated is a full ground invasion that will have to basically conquer every section or state within Iran all the way up. It will take years. And so the United States basically, if they leave, they can claim victory. And Patrick brought up a thing during the break there, Patrick, where you talked about Lebanon here. And that's it. And this is actually a very valid point about Israel and Netanyahu.
Well, I suggested maybe what if the Iran attack is a cover for these other operations, which seem more geared toward taking over territory.
It's a lot easier for Netanyahu to take over southern Lebanon than it is to take over Iran. And so that might be the case. I mean, he is clearly using the Iran attack to justify going after Lebanon. And once again, this is his crusade stage. He's trying to take over as much of that area as he possibly can. And, it's, yeah, I don't know what you do. I don't know what you do is you get in a freaking DeLorean, go back in time and tell Trump to stop being so manipulated like a freaking trout on the damn line. How about that? 952-946-6205. So I'm going to share with you a story you probably haven't heard, but let me set this up a little bit for you. Because you know how I've talked a little bit about finances in this country and how the economy of this country is really kind of a facade at this point, that pretty much every major market is under massive stresses, that the bond market, the currency market, the ag market, the housing market, every market is basically that the only things that really seem to be, propping anything up as far as optimism is the stock markets, which are grossly overinflated due to an AI bubble, which pretty much even every expert investor has acknowledged, oh yeah, there's a massive AI bubble there right now. And crypto, which is the fraudulent money. Crypto is just, it's not real. It's a Ponzi scheme designed for get alpha bros to feel like they're in charge. And then they're just duping you and they're going to steal all your money. So yeah, good luck with all that. But those are the two things that are there. There is also, I will say, a tremendous amount of corporate executive and billionaire manipulation to basically try to help Trump, because this is their great cash grab that's on right now. This is the great cash grab where they're going to turn themselves from billionaires into trillionaires, millionaires into billionaires, and all at the expense of all of us. Let me, before I get into this though, let me, if I can, let me go through a few expenses that the federal government has had to weather here the last few days. The taxpayers shelled out tens of thousands of dollars for Kristi Noem's makeup and props in an anti-immigration South Dakota ad where she appeared on horseback in front of Mount Rushmore, touting the Department of Homeland Security. This according to financial disclosures. Noem is set to step down this next week from her post as Homeland Security, largely due to the controversial ads, which she claimed were signed off by Trump, which he didn't know about them. But she got up and do playtime and dress up. The company, the South Dakota ads were filmed over 2 days in October by Ohio-based firm, the Strategy Group Company, whose CEO is Ben Yoho, or Y-O-H-O, Ben Yuhu, the husband of Noem's former spokesperson and assistant secretary, Tricia McLaughlin, who is, I believe, the Wendigo over at the Department of Defense. She's doing the press briefings over there. She's the Department of Homeland Security. That's right. She's Homeland Security. She's the one that's lying through her face all the time. The company once again, this is a company who the spokesperson for the Department of Homeland Security that her husband runs, and they got this deal. The company was subcontracted by MAGA firm Safe America Media, which was awarded the $143 million no-bid contract by the Department of Homeland Security in February 2025. Clearly inside cronyism. Absolutely. It was only incorporated a week before it was handed the contract. So once again, I want to make sure we understand the Homeland Security spokeswoman's husband started a company and a week later was handed a no-bid $143 million contract in February of 2005. Dear Lord. In the ad in question, Noam donned a cowboy hat and chaps. Same outfit you wore on the sex plane. No. Against the backdrop of Mount Rushmore, as she warned illegal immigrants to stay away. You cross the border illegally, we'll find you, break our laws, we'll punish you, harm American citizens. There'll be consequences, Noam said while on horseback. I'm a tough girl. Invoices from the Strategy Group company submitted to the request of the Democratic Senators Peter Welch of Vermont and Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut and reviewed by the Independent show that the taxpayer footed the bill for nearly $4,000 worth of hair and makeup services for Noam. Didn't work. I mean, that's like a plaster job. I mean, you need to get a full crew on in there. More than $40,000 in other vendor costs, including $20,000 to a barrel racer that included the cost of the horse rental. So, a no bid, $143 million contract. Same woman who was saying, we can't fund FEMA because it's too pricey, awarded her press secretary's husband a $143 million no bid contract a week after he formed the company to do this exact work. Exactly. The government has money for that. The White House agreed to pay Total Energies $1 billion to shelve an East Coast wind farm that it considered condemned as too costly. The wind farm was too costly, so we're paying the company $1 billion to just stop the building of the wind farm. The French energy giant's investment said to be diverted to other investments. The U.S. Department said the Interior announced on Monday that it was a landmark agreement with Total Energies for the company to redirect capital from expensive, unreliable offshore wind leases. We are literally giving $1 billion to a French company to stop building the windmills, which, by God, we need now, considering Trump's insane foreign policy. But we're going to give, once again, that's not even a Tricia McLaughlin company. This is some French company we're giving $1 billion just to stop it because Trump doesn't like that. I also should mention two other things, if I can, before I get into the main part of the story, which is this. That when Trump came into office, one of the first things they did with the One Big Beautiful Bill, was basically they said it was give tax breaks to millionaires and billionaires. But if you're running a deficit, you can't give them a tax break because you don't have the money to do that. You have to be running a surplus to be giving them a tax break. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. So what they did was the most irresponsible fiscal maneuver you can, but this is what Republicans have been doing since Reagan. They run over to the Chinese, mainly the Chinese, borrow a bunch of money from them at a high interest rate, take that money. It'd be like you maxing out a credit card and taking all that money, taking it in wheelbarrows over to the wealthiest people in the country, dumping that money on their front porch and said, don't worry, we're going to have the middle and lower class pay this back. There's always money for that, to borrow a bunch of money from China to give to millionaires and billionaires in the oil industry and all that stuff. They always have money for that. And of course, they want $200 billion for a war. $200 billion for a war, which most people even say at this point is probably grossly undercutting the amount of money it's going to cost. I'll say this, no matter what you say at this point, anytime any Republican says there's no money for health care, there's no money for food for hungry people, they're clearly lying. There's always money for war. There's always money for their pet projects. There's always money for tax breaks for billionaires. There's always money for them to grift. There's always money for Republicans in that way. And once again, all these Republicans ran on the idea that they were going to cut the budget deficit. And the budget deficit has skyrocketed, which brings us to the story you're just not hearing right now. The U.S. government officially is now insolvent. That's right. It's not hyperbole. It's the conclusion drawn directly from the Treasury Department themselves, their own consolidated financial statements for fiscal year 2025 released last week to near total media silence. Nobody wants to report on this for some reason, that the U.S. government is insolvent. The numbers, $6.06 trillion in total assets against $47.78 trillion in total liabilities. We have $6.6 trillion. We owe $47.78 trillion as of September 30th, 2025, which once again, a lot of that is massive amounts of money borrowed from China, given to millionaires and billionaires. It is. Importantly, the $47.78 trillion in reported liabilities does not include the unfunded obligations of social insurance programs like Social Security and Medicare. Those are disclosed separately in an off-balance sheet statement of social insurance, which once again, Republicans, as they basically give money to French companies and to make Kristi Noem look human and to themselves and to tax breaks to millionaires and billionaires, will also do, we can't afford Social Security. So, yeah, this is a big freaking problem. The government's consolidation balance sheets proposals exclude the SOSI, deteriorated by nearly $2.07 trillion between fiscal year 2024 and 2025, reaching the staggering negative of $41.72 trillion. Total liabilities are now nearly 8 times the value of the reported assets. The largest drivers were a $2 million increase in federal debt and interest payable, now $30.33 trillion. That's the money you borrowed from China to give to the wealthiest people. And $438.8 billion increase in federal employee veteran benefits payable, now at $15.47 trillion. Make no mistake. The reason we are in this mess right now is because we have Republicans who their official policy is to borrow money from China and give it to themselves and to the wealthy people and make us pay it back. Considering they've been cutting every other program they can while they do this, shows you that everything else is on the table for cuts outside of what they can put in their own pocket. It's the Matt McNeil Show. Get ready for Easter fun with the annual Easter brunch at the Park Tavern. Enjoy Easter ham, all your Easter breakfast and brunch favorites, and all the sides and desserts. Seatings are from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Sunday, April 5th, and you need reservations. $29.95 for adults, $19.95 for those over 65 and under 12 years old, and 5 and under are free. And don't forget the hour of free bowling with every reservation. Call 952-929-6810 on Louisiana Avenue, north of Highway 7 in St. Louis Park. Enjoy a delicious, stress-free Easter with the Park Tavern.
Hi, this is Frank Brown of Minuteman Press Uptown with a question for our listeners. How important are business values to you? When you need high-quality digital print, it matters who you work with. You see, Minuteman Uptown is unique. We're one of the only union print shops in Minnesota providing our team with living wages and benefits. We believe in second chances for justice-impacted individuals who want to contribute to the community, and we are active in local issues. We've been in the streets standing up for racial, social, and economic justice. At Minuteman Uptown, our mission is to connect all communities through technology-driven print solutions. An example of that mission is when I moved Minuteman Uptown to North Minneapolis. We're invested in this local community, and we help small businesses and local organizations throughout the Twin Cities reach their audiences. Reach out to Minuteman Uptown and partner with a printer that shares your values. Call us today at 612-870-0960 0777 or visit us at mpuptown.com. That's mpuptown.com.
Your time is precious. Why are you still mowing your own lawn? I'm Alex Knorr, a young, hardworking entrepreneur serving the Southwest Metro with affordable lawn care. At Buzzcut Mowing, I offer weekly mowing, leaf cleanups, aeration, dethatching, tree trimming, and mulch installation. I work hard so you can relax and enjoy time with family and friends. Call today and I'll handle the rest. Visit buzzcutmowingmn.com. That's buzzcutmowingmn.com.
Step into Forts, a fort-building wonderland at Children's Theater Company, only through April 5th. Theatrical elements, evolving light and soundscapes, and towers of cardboard boxes set the scene for creative play. Build the tallest fort, the longest fort, or tons of cozy little forts. Design a castle or a neighborhood. Your imagination leads the way as you play freely and create shared stories together in real life. Forts at CTC only through April 5th. Spring break weekdays available. Tickets at childrenstheater.org.
What if I told you that toxic pesticides from crop seeds and lawns have spread all over Minnesota's lands and water, devastating wildlife and posing risks to our health? Well, it's true. But a coalition of Minnesota farmers, community members, anglers, and more are taking action to protect our state from neurotoxic pesticides. To learn more and get involved, visit cleanerseed.org. That's cleanerseed.org. And tune to Food Freedom Radio.
Give me a kiss to build a dream on.
It is the Matt McNeil Show. Well, yeah, let's, thanks, Louis Armstrong. Let's go into the rest of this nightmare story. So once again, in case you missed it, hey, the Treasury Department has now said the U.S. government is insolvent, which means basically we have too much debt compared to how much money we actually do have. This is their official clarification of it. The off-balance sheet picture is even more alarming. The 75-year unfunded social insurance obligation surged by 10.1 trillion in a single year, rising from 78.3 trillion in fiscal year 2024 to 88.4 trillion in fiscal year 2025, driven primarily by a $4.6 trillion jump in projected Medicare Part B shortfalls. Nice job, Republicans, with that. And the 2.5 trillion increase in Social Security. The Treasury Department, the Treasury statement of long-term fiscal projections shows the 75-year fiscal gap widening from 4.3% of GDP in fiscal year 2024 to 4.7% in fiscal year 2025. By the way, if there's ever an argument for single-payer healthcare at this point, and maybe that's where eventually we get to, is that they break the system. And the Republicans are first going to come on out. Let's make sure we understand. They're first going to come on out and said, well, you should die and you don't deserve health care because you're one of the bastard people. Now pay for that money we borrowed from China to give the millionaires and billionaires. That's what they're going to say. And then eventually when people start pitchfork and torches towards their houses after the entire healthcare system has collapsed, maybe a single payer, maybe we should reconsider that then. I mean, that's going to be what it's going to be. We're going to end up losing everything. And then all the millionaires and billionaires are going to run off to foreign countries. And then all of a sudden it's going to be like, well, I guess we have to try to help the people now. If the 88.4 trillion in 75-year off-balance sheet obligations were added to the 47.8 trillion in official balance sheets liabilities, the total funded obligation is now exceeding 136.2 trillion, roughly 5 times the annual GDP of the United States itself, gross domestic product. The GAO, Government Accountability Office, issued a disclaimer of opinion on the U.S. government's fiscal year 2025 financial statements. The 29th consecutive year it has been unable to determine whether the statements are fairly presented. This is primarily due to serious ongoing financial management problems at Department of Defense and weakness in accounting for interagency transactions. So basically, because the Defense Department's not being forthright with their finances, we really don't know where things are at anyway. So most people cannot relate to $1 trillion figures on a government ledger. So I want to basically try to unpack this a little bit better for you, okay? Let's divide every number here by 100 million. Drop 8 zeros, okay? And federal finances look much more like a household budget in free fall, Okay, so what we're going to do is, as opposed to talking trillions of this, I'm going to try to lower these numbers so you understand this on a day-to-day basis for you in your own house. Okay, the household earns $52,446 and spends $73,378, running a $20,932 annual deficit. All right, so you basically make $52,500 a year, but you're spending $73,500 a year, so you're basically $21,000 in the hole. Its total liabilities and unfounded promises amount to $1,361,788 versus again just $60,000 in assets. So basically, the amount of money that we have promised to other people is $1,361,000. Our total net worth is just $60,000, leaving it $1.3 million in the hole by any accounting standard that's insolvent. So if you were say you make $50,000 a year, but you're spending $70,000 a year, and people keep allowing that to happen, where you're basically incurring an additional $21,000 worth of spending per year. You basically, and at the end of the day, you look and say, what's your obligation? Well, we owe $1.3 million, and my entire net worth is worth $60 million, or $60,000. $60,000. You owe $1.3 million, you're worth $60,000. The math doesn't add up, does it? No, it doesn't. This is why when this came to light, and let me pull it up right now. This came to light, and the stock market doesn't want to necessarily, respond. It actually was Medium today, I believe it was. Let's see here. I'm having trouble with my phone because my fingers are big. Okay, there they are. The Dow was down 84 points today. The S&P was down 24. NASDAQ was down 184 today. But, once again, not a lot. Oil was up still, not as bad as it was earlier, but it is still up. None of this makes any damn sense. You literally have your own Treasury Department now saying you're insolvent, that you can't, the money doesn't add up anymore. If you ever watched, oh God, what was that? There was a movie with Zachary Quinto and Kevin Spacey and stuff. Margin Call was the name of that movie. If you ever watch that, that's quite literally where we're at right now, where there's the scene where he basically starts showing people that none of the numbers add up anymore, and that we're actually on the verge of collapse. That's where we're as a country. The Treasury itself has made the point of we can't do this. Yet there still is money for Kristi Noem's face plaster and for money to give to $1 billion to a company just to stop a wind farm of all the damn stupid things. And $200 billion for a war that we should not be in. And massive tax breaks to millionaires and billionaires. There's money for that, even though we're not solvent, and they're not stopping. The Trump administration and the Republicans are not stopping. This will crash. That's not an opinion. That's just, I'm looking at numbers, and the numbers don't add up anymore. So the stock market is fraudulent. Crypto is fraudulent. Every other market is weighing down on this stuff. Good luck. Good luck. Chicago, Seattle, talk to you tomorrow. Minneapolis, St. Paul, bam, hour 2 up next. For delicious gourmet popcorn, Popcorn, Popped corn.com has you covered. Popped corn offers your favorite flavors ready to go. Cheese made with real cheese, their classic mix. More than 80 great flavors. Enjoy featured flavors like Shamrock Caramel and their tasty fudge and nuts. They sell their popcorn in various bag, gift box, and tin sizes, and they ship across the USA.
Visit popcorn.com and enter in discount code MATT to get 10% off your order. That's discount code MATT at popcorn, POPPED, corn.com, and make everyone smile.
Would you let animals pick your insurance? Do you really need to experience mayhem to get the best rates? Or how about a celebrity quarterback or fake university saving you money? There's a lot of marketing stunts when it comes to insurance, but what you really need is someone looking out for you. Call Array Insurance, and they will work hard to find you the best insurance coverage and rates. So avoid gimmicks and call Cheryl at Array, 763-504-3067 or arrayinsurance.com. Array Insurance, working hard for you.
It's Brad Friedman, your friendly investigative blogger, journalist, and host of the Bradcast on AM 950, KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
AP News, I'm Ben Thomas. President Trump insists the U.S. is talking with Iran, naming Steve Witkoff, son-in-law Jared Kushner, along with Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
We're in negotiations right now. They're doing it along with Marco, J.D. We have a number of people doing it. And the other side, I can tell you, they'd like to make a deal.
Iran has denied it in negotiations, but John Gambrell reports.
In the last day, we have seen an increased flurry of activity that involves Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi calling a series of countries around the region. And officials that have spoken to the Associated Press describe Pakistan, Egypt, and Turkey really leading the charge and trying to get some forward momentum on what Trump said.
Airstrikes battered Iran again today while it fired a dozen missile barrages at Israel, and missiles from Lebanese militants also triggered air raid sirens there. In financial markets, oil prices were rising again. Brent crude up 4.6% to settle above $104 per barrel. On Wall Street, the main stock indexes wobbled to a lower close. The Dow down 84 points or 0.2%. The S&P dropped 0.4, the Nasdaq 8. On Capitol Hill, senators are working on a proposal to end the Homeland Security shutdown. It's led to long waits at airport security checkpoints, with TSA workers going unpaid and hundreds quitting. Federal investigators say a runway warning system didn't sound an alarm before an Air Canada jet and a fire truck collided at New York's LaGuardia Airport. National Transportation Safety Board Chair Jennifer Homendy.
Our aviation system is incredibly safe because there are multiple layers of defense built in to prevent an accident. So when something goes wrong, that means many, many things went wrong.
The two pilots were killed and several passengers injured in Sunday night's incident. This is AP News.
Workdays can be unpredictable, but your workwear shouldn't be. With the Cintas Apparel Plus program, you'll have freshly laundered garments for everyone on your team delivered every week. Cintas has workwear for just about any job imaginable, with high-performance fabrics and an uncompromising fit that stretches and moves with you. Don't leave looking and feeling good to chance. Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Progressive knows you want to get away, but not like too away. You crave the unknown, but also charcuterie boards with 4 types of cheese. And that's exactly why you bought an RV and bundled it with Progressive, because 24/7 protection is one luxury you'll never have to give up. So go ahead, explore the wilderness, all from the comfort of your zero-gravity camp chair. Switch to Progressive and protect your RV, boat, or motorcycle by bundling with your home or auto insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and third-party insurance. Not available.
Hey, it's Tom Hartman, and here's a thought I keep coming back to. Your utility company raised its rates last year. It'll raise them next year and the year after that. And you have no vote, no say, and no alternative, unless you generate your own power. That's what solar makes possible for your home and your business. All Energy Solar has been helping homeowners and commercial operators take back control of their energy since 2009. They design every system specifically for you, your property, your usage, your goals. No cookie cutter solutions, no pressure, just honest answers and expert work. Minnesota homeowners also benefit from sales tax, property tax exemptions, and some local incentives depending on where you live. And commercial customers can still get access to the 30% federal investment tax credit through 2027. But you have to act soon. The sun shows up every day and asks nothing in return. All Energy Solar helps you capture it. Visit allenergysolar.com or call 800-620-3370 for your free evaluation today.
At Schroman Law, we provide more than just legal documents. We walk alongside our clients to ensure their wishes and legacies are being honored with every choice. And we do this while recognizing that this process can be emotional and weighty. Our team includes attorneys, as well as a grief coach and a published writer ready to assist with legacy letters and extra wishes to go alongside your healthcare directive. Contact us today to learn more at schromenlaw.com. That's SCHROMEN law.com.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly sunny skies today with a high near 56, tonight cloudy with a low around 41, and Wednesday sunny with a high near 69. The bakery at Cafe Latte features legendary cakes, cupcakes, and fresh-baked breads crafted with real ingredients. You won't find artificial flavors, colors, or preservatives at Cafe Latte, just pure quality. Whether it's a sweet treat or a gourmet meal, head to Victoria and Grand for Cafe Latte. More at cafelatte.com. Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Hour number 2 of the show here. Matt and Patrick and Brett here right now. Just really quick, if I may, just do something on my own really fast if I can here, because I just, as a veteran, I've got a little message for Donald Trump, if I may. The Trump administration has initiated deportation proceedings against 34 former military members over the past year and arrested 125 other military members for immigration violations, representing a dramatic reversal of previous policies that shielded service members and their families from enforcement action. Federal data obtained by the New York Times reveals that immigration authorities have placed 248 relatives of former military members into deportation proceedings after the Trump administration rescinded Biden-era guidance giving service members preferential treatment in immigration enforcement cases. The shift marks a significant departure from longstanding practices. The Biden administration and prior administrations made military service members and their relatives lower priorities for detention and deportation, particularly when criminal convictions were involved. I will say this. I served in the military. When I was in the military, there were 3 people who were from foreign countries that were serving in our military to get their U.S. citizenship. You served in our military, you're a U.S. citizen as far as I'm concerned. F these guys. Just F every one of them. That was under the H.W. Bush administration when I was in. That was 88 to 92. I was in. The policy was, these are people who are willing to fight for the United States. You give them the decency of giving them the American citizen experience because they're fighting for us. Now, basically, they're not even honoring that. So F these guys. F Stephen Miller, F Trump, F them all, because you should not be treating vets like this. You should not be, or their families who are willing to put their lives on the line for the United States. And this is how we're rewarding this. I'm getting that out of my system. 952-946-6205. On a completely unrelated note, how much experience do you guys have with baseball players?
What do you mean?
Did I mention Brett's in studio with us? Did I mention that? Brett, of course, you're going to be talking to Kulik here in a second. Baseball, just how many baseball players have you ever met?
I mean, a few. Probably, yeah.
Patrick, how many baseball players? I mean, and not necessarily pro players, but guys, they play, they're pretty religious about playing, right?
Yeah, a couple here and there.
There's a lot of them that seem to be a little off kilter. Can I just say this? My son played baseball, and he was really good. As a matter of fact, his final coach basically said, I'm pretty sure I could get you on a Division I team, Division II for sure, if you want to play baseball. And he said, no, he went over to the School of Mathematics and Engineering over at the U. And so he was over, he did that instead. And the coach said, good luck with your life. You have a good time. But I have noticed that the people who play baseball, when that moment starts to come to an end, it doesn't go well. There was an all-time classic moment where my son, my wife and my son went to the annual banquet for the baseball team afterwards. The guy comes on out, their speaker talked about how he was a good pitcher, and then he threw his best pitch ever, and the guy put it over the center field fence and did all this stuff. And basically the entire tone of the speech changed to give up on your dreams. You shouldn't even try to make things work. It's just not going to happen for you. Thank you very much. With a bunch of kids going, yay, sort of thing. It's my wife came home, her eyes were like wide, like, you're not going to believe the speech we just heard. That's being said, a 19-year-old, they say MSU Mankato State, Minnesota State University down in Mankato, baseball player is accused of getting into a bar fight. 19 years old, by the way. What's the drinking age in Minnesota?
Not 19.
Exactly. Refusing to cooperate with police, assaulting an officer in downtown Mankato on Friday night. Braden Grimm faces 7 charges in connection with the incident, including 3rd-degree assault, 4th-degree assault, a peace officer, 2 counts of obstruction, interference with the police officer. Grimm, a student at the University of Minnesota Mankato, and pitched for the Mavericks baseball team in 2025. He also played for Mankato Moondogs. That must be a city team down there. Do you know Moondog action?
I don't know the Moondogs. No, must be a town ball team.
It's got to be town ball. A spokesperson for the university told the news that Grimm is not a member of the team at this time. I don't know if that, since we're in spring, maybe that's the reason why he had just a bit of a bad night and was a little inebriated at 19 years old in a bar. Maybe that was the reason. Around midnight on Friday, officers working foot patrol in downtown Mankato were alerted to a fight outside of a bar. The witnesses pointed them towards a suspect in the gray sweatshirt who was later identified as Grimm. I think we're seeing what happened. Did you get told you weren't on the team before this happened? That's why I'm going to ask that question. I'm just asking. According to a criminal complaint, Officer Brianna Wagner approached Grimm and asked him for his ID, which Grimm allegedly claimed he did not have, despite being in an area where he would need to have an ID to get into the bar. When the officer took a hold of Grimm's left arm and instructed him to place his hands behind his back, the man tensed up, tried to push past Wagner, the complaint says. As Wagner maintained a hold on Grimm, he aggressively spun around, pushed her against the wall, and then a second officer took hold of the man, who continued to forcefully propel himself away and fell to the ground. The male continued to aggressively attempt to move away from the officers, was able to get his knees underneath him, and started to stand up per the complaint. To prevent him from fleeing, Wagner grabbed onto Grimm's legs as he used force to continue to resist, causing the officer's head to hit the pavement with the weight of the male behind it. Oh, God.
It's not good.
Video posted on Facebook shows Wagner with a bloodied face as she and other officers and a bouncer take Grimm into custody outside of Rounders Sports Bar. Don't call us. It's not our fault. Rounders. The complaint says that Wagner incurred a significant injury from the male's contact, 11 stitches, yikes, 2 separate lacerations on her face. Grimm, who is originally from Evanston, Illinois, refused a breath test, but police believe he was under the influence of alcohol. Not good, man. Dude, not good.
No, not at all. I imagine alcohol probably played a role in that incident.
I think that that's a safe bet on this. It is amazing to me, and what's interesting is because I never played sports. I was military. I was in the band, and usually they don't say, time to hang the clarinet up, Matt. It's like, really? I don't make it to the next level. There's always a band. There's always a band, no matter who you are. There's always a band you can play at. But you play in these sports, no matter what it is, there comes a point where, nope, sorry, you didn't make it to the next level, and that's the end of it. And it does end up creating these kind of negative things, man. I've noticed it at least. I mean, is that something that you've noticed as well?
I mean, certainly you've seen that in all sorts of sports movies. That always seems to be kind of a theme with baseball. Yeah, where the guy wants to keep going, but his arm won't go anymore, so he's going to go off and play in the independent leagues. And yeah,
is the worst one baseball or is it hockey? Because up here, hockey, I know guys that will go play hockey at 3:00 in the morning because they're just so, they had a dream of somehow, I guess, playing for, some of the D League in Canada or something like that.
That's a good point with hockey, because they probably have more of a place to go globally, whether you're going to go to Europe or play in some outlaw league in Canada or wherever else you're going to go. There's going to be some opportunities for not a lot of money, but at least some to maybe get by for a while.
I think baseball is interesting because both of those, and of course, once again, we're in Minnesota here, so both of those two sports have a fairly deep minor league system. And maybe that's what the problem is that if you're going through the baseball, because we're starting Major League Baseball, the regular season starts up here, the Twins are going to suck. They're just going to suck this year. I am not happy up here in Minneapolis, St. Paul. But as we look at baseball and stuff like this, you have the rookie leagues, A-ball, AA, AAA, and you have teams all over the place. You have these town ball teams and stuff like this. You always feel like there's another team you can play for. And I've known guys that have kind of come to that point where they're just trying to hold on, and they train like it's a freaking Rocky movie, for God's sakes, to try to stay at that level so they can play the Thief River Falls Town Ball team third base. It just is crazy how they try to hold on to that stuff, man. Like I said, they never told me to hang up the clarinet.
They send you to the independent leagues to play your clarinet.
We're sending you to Dubuque now, and you got to trade in your clarinet for a bassoon. So sorry, off you go.
I got you a gig in a bar with 10 people there with maybe 3 paying attention.
A music minor league would be pretty hilarious. Darn it, I thought I was going to play piccolo. All right, you have got to talk with our good friend Patrick Cooligan over at the Minnesota Reformer. What are you guys diving into today?
Yeah, we're talking a lot of healthcare topics, so specifically with what's happening with our Medicaid dollars that were promised to us by the Trump administration that were later revoked, but now they might be coming back since they've reached a possible agreement with the feds. But feds have been pretty dodgy on what exactly is going to happen with that money. So we're going to talk through what's happening with that. Plus HCMC, of course, is going through some major financial issues right now.
And for people out there, Hennepin County Medical,
yes.
That's Hennepin County Medical Center, which is the main hospital in downtown Minneapolis.
Yeah, and they take a lot of people who don't have health insurance. So as you imagine, they run into a lot of financial difficulties. So we'll talk about that. And then we'll also touch on Michelle Tafoya's comments about abortion. She, of course, is the likely Republican candidate for Senate here in Minnesota.
Did you hear Friday's interview with Broadcorp where he was saying she just can't get out of her own way at this point?
Yeah.
It's just rookie mistakes she's making, man, left and right. So
flip-flopping on that issue too.
Exactly. So, all right. It is Brett talking with our good friend Patrick Cooligan from the Minnesota Reformer right here on BAM, the Blue Ant Media Network, and AM 950.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. Brett Johnson back here on a Tuesday afternoon. And as usual on Tuesdays, we are joined by the editor-in-chief of the Minnesota Reformer. That's Patrick Cooligan, as we're going to talk about some of the latest stories that they have been working on over at the Minnesota Reformer, which is a great resource for the best in Minnesota news and politics. As today, we're going to be talking a lot about healthcare in Minnesota, and specifically how we're serving some of our lower-income citizens, as we'll be talking about what's happening with Minnesota's Medicaid funding from the federal government and whether we're going to see some of those Medicaid dollars that were going to be frozen by the Trump administration. We'll also talk about a big financial crisis that's happening with Hennepin County Medical Center, or HCMC. And then on the political side, we're going to touch on Michelle Tafoya making some interesting remarks about abortion. So a lot to get to today. Patrick, as always, thanks for coming on the show today.
Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. So let's start off talking about what's happening in healthcare here in Minnesota, and specifically what's going on with Minnesota Medicaid funding. In fact, that's the title of an article from Alyssa Chen, who made a great write-up talking about what's happening with our federal dollars that were promised to the state but could be frozen by the Trump administration. And after months of threats to freeze federal health care dollars due to fraud concerns in Minnesota, federal regulators have finally approved a corrective action plan that could provide a path to stability for the state's most vulnerable residents, as that corrective action plan was proposed by the state of Minnesota. So the state's new corrective action plan is the key to unlocking those frozen dollars, but implementation could take until 2027. So specifically, what are some of these new oversight measures that Minnesota is putting in place that now is supposedly going to satisfy the concerns of the Trump administration?
Well, the biggest concern are these 14 different programs that are at risk of fraud, and so the Walz administration sent the federal government this corrective action plan. It includes stuff like an on-site audit process for all the autism service providers. The autism program has been a source of significant fraud, we believe. Certainly closing down the housing stabilization program was another piece of this. They disenrolling inactive healthcare providers, an enrollment moratorium on new providers in all these high-risk programs. So there's a number of actions they've taken, and then informed the administration it's really unclear what's different about the latest corrective action plan that they sent. But in any case, the federal government accepted it, and that is supposed to moot the $2 billion that they threatened to withhold. And then later on, they had said they were going to claw back an additional $243 million. So we think that that's not going to happen now. But this administration, I think, more than any in recent history, I think it's some combination of incompetence or malice. You can never really quite tell. They like to, change their position constantly, and so there's no certainty or consistency. So we think that we're in the clear, but we don't really know exactly.
Yeah, and that's where I wanted to go next, because Dr. Oz said he approved Minnesota's new oversight plan, but it is suggested that the feds are a bit vague about what's going to happen with that $2 billion funding threat and whether that's actually dead. So I don't know if this seems like a permanent resolution, or maybe even the feds are essentially keeping the state on probation until the plan is fully implemented in 2027, and who knows what even happens beyond then. So yeah, it certainly seems like a lot of uncertainty, and who knows, maybe that's even kind of the goal of what they're trying to accomplish, just to kind of keep the state so-called probation for the next few years until they either want to claw back the dollars when we do something that makes Donald Trump angry, or maybe we satisfy some of the requirements. As he said, it's just very unclear what's happening with this $2 billion.
Right. I mean, I think you're right that it could be anything. I mean, the president of the United States could be get angry at Representative Ilhan Omar one day, and then a few hours later they're threatening to withhold Medicaid dollars. That's just how they operate. And they had said previously, Oz had wrote in a letter to the administration on January 6th that the withholding will end when the Minnesota Medicaid Agency fully and satisfactorily implements a comprehensive corrective action plan. So they've accepted our corrective action plan. You would think that would be it. But again, this administration seems to like to keep, especially blue states, in this kind of state of stasis or almost paralysis as we seek a way forward here.
Well, you can read more about what's happening with our Medicaid dollars over at MinnesotaReformer.com, as Alyssa Chen did a nice write-up on what is happening with that money. I encourage you to check that out over at MinnesotaReformer.com. Now, staying on the topic of healthcare, we're now going to talk about Hennepin County Medical Center, or HCMC, and the financial troubles they're experiencing as HCMC is facing a potential collapse of their funding. So, as I said, HCMC is a very important statewide asset, and it's something that really probably needs to be saved. That's at least according to Alec Williams, who is a policy researcher for We Make Minnesota, which is a coalition of labor and community groups organizing to raise state revenue and investment in healthcare. And he recently wrote a column in The Reformer talking about the importance of HCMC. So Alec describes HCMC as an irreplaceable statewide asset, as it's home to the state's only 24/7 hyperbaric chamber and one of the busiest burn units in the country, among other features that many other hospitals don't provide. So if HCMC were to actually go under, how quickly would we see kind of a domino effect hit other private hospitals that currently don't have the capacity or even the mission to handle a lot of these high cost and very critically injured patients? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, just to begin with, the HCMC treats 115,000 patients a year and 95,000 in the emergency department. So you have to wonder where they would go, and they would wind up in places that just don't have the same ability to treat significant trauma. It's also an important teaching hospital. So there's just so many different ways that this is really, even though it's known as Hennepin County Medical Center, it's a state asset, and they treat a lot of very sick and injured people from around the state wind up at HCMC. The other important thing here is the patient payment mix. In 2023, almost half the patients were on Medicaid. And they also provide something like $100 million per year in uncompensated care. So that's people who either don't have insurance, they don't even have Medicaid, and they can't pay their bills. And also, with respect to Medicaid, remember that the Medicaid reimbursement, so somebody comes in, they get treated, the HCMC is not going to be reimbursed at the same rate as they would if it were private insurance or even Medicare. So you would, if it were to go under, and I mean, that's, I think it's impossible to even conceive of, but let's just, as a thought experiment, pretend that it goes under. Where do those patients go? You're just dumping all of these financially challenged patients, whether Medicaid or no insurance, onto other local healthcare providers, and that is going to cause significant economic distress to those providers, those hospitals, and they're just going to push the cost onto insurers and or look for creative ways to not treat poor people. So, like it or not, we have a healthcare system. It's certainly not a rational system, but it is a system. So if you sort of push on one area, you're going to get an effect in a different part of the system. So if it were to close, it would have terrible ramifications, not just for patient care, but also for the fiscal stability of the whole system.
Yeah, and right now, essentially, we have at least a system where we have private profits and socialized losses. All you got to do is compare HCMC to what's happening over at Mayo Clinic, according to Alec, again, the writer of the column, talking about how there's a nonprofit like the Mayo Clinic, or at least technically a nonprofit, that brought in a $1.5 billion surplus versus, as what we talked about, HCMC is providing 20% of all uncompensated care of the state. And as you said, a lot of that money, if HCMC were to somehow go under, those costs are probably going to be passed along to people who pay health insurance, since many of these other healthcare systems are not set up to deal with uncompensated care. But let's talk about some potential solutions with this. What's a proposal to fund HCMC? Because it seems to me, as I was reading through the proposal, it would involve a new sales tax on Hennepin County residents. It does seem like it could put an undue burden on Hennepin County, when really HCMC is serving a lot of people that are living outside of Hennepin County.
Yeah, this really cries out for a statewide solution that only the legislature can do. As Alec points out in his piece, if you were to increase the Hennepin County sales tax, it would wind up as like over here in Ramsey County, where I live, one of the highest in the state. And sales taxes, of course, are highly regressive. People who spend all their income on necessities wind up paying a higher share of that. So that's not a great solution. It's certainly better than nothing, but taxing the county's poorest residents at the highest rate is not a great solution. But on the other hand, given the divided legislature, that may be the best they can do. But as Alex says, ultimately we need just a better healthcare system that provides care for everyone. But of course, that's really only going to happen at the federal level. So it's a tough situation, but entirely predictable in a way, based on how our healthcare system is set up, where, like you said, the most challenging patients, often medically and certainly financially, we all have to pay the tab for those folks, and then a place like Mayo Clinic can siphon off the richest patients and wind up with a massive surplus, despite calling themselves nonprofit.
You can check out that column over at minnesotareformer.com titled "Hennepin County Medical Center is an important statewide asset and must be saved." Now, finally, want to talk a little bit on politics because Michelle Tafoya is obviously one of the big Republican names that is running for our open U.S. Senate seat. And she made some comments on a podcast talking about her views on abortion and with some of those views that might not necessarily line up with the majority of Minnesotans. And what I found interesting about this is that it's quite the shift from how she used to view the issue even as early as back in 2022. Where, for instance, she was back on Fox News in 2022, I think with Laura Ingraham, where she said that regarding abortion, that's a right being taken away. Abortion is not my top, not even close. I tend to be more pro-choice than pro-life. And then here she is in 2026 when she was on former Representative Jerry Munson's podcast saying Minnesota's abortion law is barbaric and challenged voters and Republican delegates to press all Republican candidates for governor and the legislature to say what they do about it. So this seems like a big shift in her position where even back in 2022, she was encouraging Republicans not to really emphasize the issue and saying that she's possibly even more pro-choice than pro-life. So is this kind of change, do you think, that she's had in her position on abortion having something to do with trying to win that Republican primary and not trying to anger the base when she has someone with kind of a cult following like Royce White challenging her? Or why do you think she made this claim on Munson's podcast and kind of shifted her position on abortion?
Well, she is in a tough spot because the Republican Party is pretty lockstep on the abortion issue. And to be fair, the Democratic Party is pretty much on the other side. And so she's trying to win the Republican endorsement at the convention. And most of those convention goers are going to be very ideological partisans. And I don't think they're going to like a candidate who favors abortion rights. And so she's, on the one hand, more electable in a fall campaign because she seems much more open to abortion rights. On the other hand, it makes it harder for her to win the endorsement. And she wants to win that endorsement so she doesn't have to she wants to shift to the general election campaign as soon as possible. And I think she can do that if she wins the endorsement. And so she's kind of talking out of both sides of her mouth here. She favors abortion rights, but then she says Minnesota's abortion, the abortion rights that are codified in law here, in which we have really left it up to healthcare providers and pregnant moms and pregnant women to make these decisions themselves. And so she is saying that voters and Republican delegates ought to press legislative candidates on changing our law. And I just don't think, I think that's all that's going to do is scare off potential suburban independents and even Democrats she might hope to win over. Because now it sounds like when you're calling our abortion law barbaric, now it sounds like you're not so pro-choice after all. The other thing she said, which is just flatly untrue, is that she's trying to de-emphasize the issue by saying that, well, the U.S. Senate, the position she's running for, doesn't have any role to play in abortion policy, and that's just obviously not true. The U.S. Congress is, of course, the ultimate authority. It can be if it wanted to be. So, of course, and then I expect that the next Democratic Congress will codify abortion rights. So that's just not true, and she has managed to raise the importance of this issue in a way that I don't think her fellow Republicans want to do at all.
Well, we'll have to see how that continues with Michelle Tafoya shifting and, as you said, kind of talking out of both sides of her mouth on the issue as she tries to wrap up that Republican nomination to pivot to the general election, but that'll all come down to what happens at this summer's Republican convention to see if she could get that endorsement before, of course, the nominating contest in August. We can follow along what's happening with that open U.S. Senate campaign, as well as both healthcare stories we talked about over at MinnesotaReformer.com. Again, great resource for Minnesota news and politics over at MinnesotaReformer.com. We have been speaking with Patrick Houlihan, who is the editor-in-chief of the Minnesota Reformer, who joins us every Tuesday on the show. As always, thanks for coming back on the show this week.
Always a pleasure.
All right, let's take a break and send things back over to Matt McNeil on AM 950.
Hey, it's Patrick for Zero Res. The end of winter is finally on the horizon, and you're going to start thinking about all that nasty crud that's built up in your home over these last few months. Call my cleaning heroes at Zero Res to help get you an early start on the spring cleanup. Zero Res removes winter's buildup and lingering odors, giving your home a fresh, spring-ready feel. This month, get Zero Resified from Minnesota's #1 carpet cleaner. Buy one room, get another free. Buy another room of carpet cleaning, get another room of carpet done for free. Get the picture? Also this month, get a free size upgrade on every whole home air duct cleaning package. Don't you love when you buy your favorite beverage and get a free size upgrade? That's what Zero Res is doing this month with their whole home air duct cleaning package. Start spring cleaning with a free upgrade and pay less for more fresh. Call Zero Res right now, 952-ZERO-RES, or go online to ZeroResMinnesota.com and say you want the AM 950 special. Backward or forward spells the same. Zero Res.
March Madness is here, and Popcorn, that's Popped corn.com, is a game time decision for you. Enjoy your favorite flavor of popped corn gourmet popcorn, like cheese made with real cheese, the classic mix, or the featured flavor of shamrock caramel. And many college teams are featured on Popped Corn's tins. You can ship your favorite team tin across the USA. Find your team at poppedcorn.com and enter the discount code of Matt to get 10% off your order. That's discount code of MATT at popcorn, Popped corn.com.
Hi, this is Chad from AM 950. I've been telling you about Snap Construction, the company AM 950 trusts for all roofing and siding needs. Now that spring is here and summer is around the corner, now is a great time to find out why AM 950 trusts Snap Construction. Ryan, the owner, and his team at Snap Construction have been great to work with, and they have enjoyed working with our listeners.
Hi, this is Ryan, owner of Snap Construction. We've absolutely loved working with the listeners at AM 950. What a great group of people and a great radio station. I personally want to thank all the listeners that we've had the opportunity to work with. At Snap Construction, we look forward to working with many more of you when it comes to your roofing, siding, windows, and insulation. Don't just take Chad's word for it. Google Snap Construction, arguably the most well-reviewed roofing, siding, window, and insulation contractor in the Twin Cities metro. We led this community with a lifetime craftsmanship warranty. Don't wait to get a free estimate. Call today, 612-333-SNAP, 612-333-SNAP, or visit us online, snapconstruction.com.
When it comes to nutritional supplements, it can be hard to know what to trust. Announcing whattotrust.com. Whattotrust.com is a free app developed by Canamix, a Rochester, Minnesota company founded by scientists and clinicians from Harvard Medical School to help people make informed choices. It's time to stop guessing what scientifically proven means and start knowing what to trust. Go to whattotrust.com, enter product's name, and get science-based What to Trust scores. Companies do not pay to be listed on What to Trust. Whattotrust.com.
Get ready for Easter fun with the annual Easter brunch at the Park Tavern. Enjoy Easter ham, all your Easter breakfast and brunch favorites, and all the sides and desserts. Seatings are from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Sunday, April 5th, and you need reservations. $29.95 for adults, $19.95 for those over 65 and under 12 years old, and 5 and under are free. And don't forget the hour of free bowling with every reservation. Call 952-929-6810 on Louisiana Avenue, north of Highway 7 in St. Louis Park. Enjoy a delicious, stress-free Easter with the Park Tavern.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Tonight, cloudy with a low of 41, then Wednesday, sunshine with a high of 69. There's something for everybody at Cafe Latte in St. Paul, from award-winning soup, salad, sandwiches, and desserts to treats from the bakery made fresh daily and a pizza and wine bar. Cafe Latte is located on the corner of Grand Avenue and Victoria Street. Check them out at cafelatte.com.
It is the Matt McNeil Show. Thanks for being here today. 952-946-6205.
Just thanks as well to Patrick Hooligan and Brett for being in here with that interview here. By the way, I should mention sometime this hour, before the hour is up here, I've got a pair of tickets to give away to Abuelita. This is the play that's going to be going on over at the Capri Theater in Minneapolis. You get your choice of tickets. It can be for the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday showing at 7:30 p.m. or the Thursday, Friday, Saturday showing at 2 p.m. Or excuse me, the 2 p.m. showing on Sunday. The 2 p.m. showing on Sunday. So 7:30 on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, or the 2 p.m. on Sunday. There you go. There you go. Yay. So listen for your chance to win on that. If you don't know this is a great one about a play about a white woman who brings her mixed race grandson to experience culture in New York City. It's the first time it's shown up here in Minnesota, so it's available once again for you to see for free at the Capri Theater. Just listen for your chance to call in on the tickets. Okay. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205 is the phone number. All right. The big news out of Minnesota is something that was kind of been percolating for a while here. The state has sued the Trump administration, accusing its top law enforcement agencies of withholding evidence in the killings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy and the shooting of Julio Sosa Salas in order to protect agents deployed for Operation Metro Surge from potential criminal charges. The lawsuit filed Tuesday in U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia argues that attempts by state officials to gather evidence into the shootings, including the names of the federal agents involved, have been shut down to the highest levels of the Trump administration. Principles of federalism do not permit the federal government to withhold investigative evidence for the purpose of shielding law enforcement officers from scrutiny where a state is investigating serious potential violations of criminal laws targeting its citizens within its borders, the petition reads. Now, once again, why has the Trump administration done this? They cannot pardon state charges. And their argument is going to be that they were acting as a federal agent and henceforth the state laws don't apply. But I've read a few interesting articles that most states, red and blue, actually have laws on books that prevent this from being, not all of them. There's like one or two states that basically whatever the federal government does, it goes. They have to acquiesce to them. But most states actually have charges you can file against them that the federal government can't really do anything about. And so it seems that the state government is going to basically wants to go after these people. And the feds are trying to say, no, we're not going to allow you to do that. I actually think this is a pretty cut and dry case in regards to the evidence. There is nothing saying that law enforcement has the ability to prevent other law enforcement agencies from seeing evidence of a crime. The state of Minnesota, through Attorney General Keith Ellison, Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty, and Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension Superintendent Drew Evans, are the plaintiffs in the lawsuit. The defendants are the U.S. Department of Justice, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, the worst attorney general in the history of this country, Pam Bondi, and former Homeland Security Secretary Christy, where's that puppy? Noam. Messages seeking comment. We're left with the White House, Justice Department, and Homeland Security. Let them eat static. I imagine they said. This is the latest in a series of legal maneuvers by Minnesota officials as they seek to hold federal agents accountable for potential criminal activity during Operation Metro Surge. It comes more than 7 weeks after Moriarty filed the first of multiple Tuohy letters to the federal government seeking evidence in the shootings. The letters represent the formal process of obtaining records and evidence from federal agencies, and the lack of response from the Trump administration led to the lawsuit. So they've dotted their I's, now they're crossing their T's. There is a process in which you have to do it, in which they have. So they're doing it. It's methodical. It's slow. It's once again the federal government's trying to hide these people. But I want to remind you, we kind of know who the officer is that shot Renee Good. He misogynistic jackass who basically hot-headed decided to kill a mother of 3. The Preddy murder, there's a series of agents that did it. And I want to remind you that they were applauding when they killed Alex Preddy, a VA nurse, in the streets for not doing anything. And afterwards, like it was a trophy buck that they got on a hunting trip, they stripped him to determine whose bullets went where. because they wanted to determine who had the kill shot. So I guess they could high five each other more in their little, grotto orgy later on. Yeah, we should know who they're doing. And also, the other guy, the other shooting, that was the Venezuelan snow shovel attack force. That was that story where the guy said, he came around the corner and all of a sudden he was confronted by the Venezuelan, synchronized snow shovel attack team and Quidditch team. Remember, there were some brooms involved too. And, out of just save his own life, I let a bullet fly. And then all of a sudden you realize, oh no, you shot these people through a door. So yeah, and even the federal government has basically filed charges against these guys because they lied so much about what had happened in that raid. That was also the one where they drove into North Minneapolis at night and tried to pull this stuff off, and then they ended up having to run for their lives, and their cars got ransacked, and they left behind their IDs and stuff like this. Dude, man, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't be going to North Minneapolis like that. I'm just going to let you know. They're smart and dumb, and you guys were dumb. The investigative aftermath of the 3 high-profile incidents are highlighted in the petition. The killing of Good in South Minneapolis, January 7th, the shooting of Sosa Salas in North Minneapolis on January 14th, and the killing of Preddy in South Minneapolis on January 24th. All 3 incidents remain under criminal investigation by state officials. The lawsuit argues that the blanket decision to not share evidence with Minnesota law enforcement in any of these cases, and in state's opinion, to not provide any substantive legal response to the Tuohy letters, shows the Justice Department and Homeland Security are making arbitrary and capricious decisions in violation of the Administrative Procedure Act. It also argues that withholding the evidence violates Minnesota's 10th Amendment right to carry out its police powers. In an interview, Moriarty said filing the lawsuit in the nation's capital was a calculated decision because of the federal court's expertise on federal agencies, but also for the location's symbolic weight. It's like we're going right to the heart of the administration with our demands. This feels like we should be challenging the federal government at the federal government level. I actually applaud this because I want to remind people that the federal government, when they want to file charges against somebody, run to Oklahoma or Texas to do it, because they're basically such belligerent lapdog judges down there, or Florida, that they basically will side with them. DC's courts are a little bit more liberal, and it will be interesting to watch them argue that we don't have to let people know who murdered somebody in the streets. I do not want to underestimate the importance of this case for its symbolism, because if this does, and I expect it will eventually get to the Supreme Court, and that corrupt, bought and paid for right-wing Supreme Court decides that Minnesota shouldn't have access to this, that is the Supreme Court then saying we can have stormtroopers, basically untraceable federal agents, descend on a city, on a community, murder its citizens, and there will be no recourse for the state in regards, even when it is plainly violating people's rights. Even when it's plainly violating people's rights. So, yeah, there is this. This is a pretty big case, actually. The Trump administration, everything they're doing it's not about consolidation of power to the president. It's about consolidating the power to Trump, because they're never, once again, let's put the shoe on the other foot. If this was a Democratic president and they had federal agents who, well, I've made this point. If a MAGA person with MAGA bumper stickers on their car was caught speeding in a national park in the Biden administration, and the allegation was made that the person was pulled over solely because of the MAGA bumper stickers, even though we have the radar gun showing they were going 20 miles over the speed limit, Republicans would be screaming about Joe Biden's federalized police force of the national parks, hunting down the MAGA vehicles, trying to find the MAGA people. That's what we'd hear. There would be 3 or 4 investigations into National Park Gate. And that, and when did Joe Biden officially order the park ranger to pull that person over? That sort of thing. We already know that is just a given. That is the insane hypocrisy of the right, is that everything that they would demand accountability for, there is zero accountability. And as a matter of fact, a delightful cheering as this country marched towards authoritarian dictatorship. So yeah, this is a pretty big freaking case. Can the federal government send people into a major metro area, kill people, and basically prevent any evidence of the crime or the incident itself? Even if the evidence proves them innocent, which we've seen the videos, no. But even in that case, can the federal government say, nope, you don't have any access or right to that? It's going to be an interesting case. And it's these little cases that set the standard on whether or not we will actually ever see any level of accountability. We should at least know the agents' names, because the people who are the victims' family members should be able to file civil lawsuits against the loss, which, and I think that's also part of this. I think the federal government knows that if the names get out on some of these shooters, that basically the civil case will there's no way on the planet they're going to win the civil case. And so they don't want, they don't even want these people held accountable in civil court. Forget in criminal court. In civil court, they don't want any accountability. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. We'll take a break. Come on back. It's the Matt McNeil Show here on your Tuesday.
What if I told you that toxic pesticides from crop seeds and lawns have spread all over Minnesota's lands and water, devastating wildlife and posing risks to our health? Well, it's true. But a coalition of Minnesota farmers, community members, anglers, and more are taking action to protect our state from neurotoxic pesticides. To learn more and get involved, visit cleanerseed.org. That's cleanerseed.org. And tune to Food Freedom Radio.
For delicious gourmet popcorn, Popped Corn, Popped corn.com has you covered. Popped Corn offers your favorite flavors ready to go. Cheese made with real cheese, their classic mix. More than 80 great flavors. Enjoy featured flavors like Shamrock Caramel and their tasty fudge and nuts. They sell their popcorn in various bag, gift box, and tin sizes, and they ship across the USA. Visit poppedcorn.com and enter in discount code MATT to get 10% off your order. That's discount code MATT at popcorn, Popped corn.com, and make everyone smile.
Cafe Latte offers made-from-scratch soups, salads, sandwiches, and mouth-watering desserts.
So come check out their pizza and wine bar, or get a treat from the bakery made fresh daily. Plus, you can still do online ordering and takeout, along with gift cards. Just go to cafelatte.com and choose from their ever-changing selection of award-winning salads, sandwiches, and soups. Cafe Latte is located off Victoria and Grand and online at cafelatte.com.
At Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, our job is to help you find a place for fire. Our displays include over 180 models in diverse styles, and we have over 35 burning displays. Come and experience the glow and warmth of a live fire.
Some say there are only 2 seasons in Minnesota: road construction and winter. Hi, this is Laura, and I agree there are 2 seasons in Minnesota: summer and fireplace season. I bought my wood stove for Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces in 2005, and every season after summer comes the time when we fire up the wood stove, get out our favorite music, and discover the warmth of fire. Our dog Pumpkin remembers the fire too. He stations himself right there, legs up in the air, just enjoying the warmth of the fire. With the wood stove, we are able to keep the main area of the house toasty warm, while the thermostat is set at an energy-efficient 64 degrees. Discover your fireplace season. Visit Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces today.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, out of the ordinary products and services since 1977.
There really is no place like home. Hi, I'm Mary T. of Mary T. Home Health. When you're faced with an illness or an injury, being able to stay at home and receive care is important. Our home health offers a wide range of services, including skilled nursing, physical, occupational, and speech therapies, aides, homemakers, in-home respite care, and 24/7 live-in care. We'll work closely with your primary care provider to come up with an individualized plan for you. Learn more today at marytinc.com.
It is the Matt McNeil Show. Let's give away some tickets. Abuelita is going to be over at the Capri Theater. You have your choice of shows. You can go to the Thursday, Friday, Saturday show at 7:30, the Sunday show at 2. It's your choice which show you want to go to. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205 is the phone number. Caller number 5. You will win tickets to Abuelita over at the Capri Theater this weekend. Good luck. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205 is the phone number. I did want to take some time here to talk about something else in regards to the ICE invasion, is that we've talked about the labor situation in the state. Sahan Journal here in town has a fantastic story about the contractors. Many builders who are afraid to go to work during Operation Metro Surge as federal agents targeted construction sites, delaying projects across the Twin Cities. According to contractors and labor union representatives, while winter is usually a slow season for construction, some contractors and union representatives say they're worried immigration arrests and subsequent fear among workers will cause a labor shortage. They go on to say there are 12,000 immigrants in construction in Minnesota, making up 6% of all workers in that industry. I'm going to guess that that's actually underreported. I'm going to guess that's dramatically underreported too. That's according to the Minnesota Budget Project, a research and advocacy organization. To give you an idea of the impact they've had here, the metro area has seen a relatively traditional amount of permits called here. In Minneapolis, only 9 new residential construction permits have been filed in January and February. That's 40% lower than the average number of permits for the same time period of the previous 3 years. St. Paul's permit database shows that 18 new construction permits were filed as of March 17th this year, which is static compared to the same time period in 2025. So basically, there is a pulling back here. And once again, there's not as many laborers. I want to put this in conjunction with an article about national farm workers, where the federal, if you missed this, I mean, we are bombing Iran. The Trump administration is basically admitting that they have screwed up with farm labor, and they're trying to offer some way to get, immigrants in here under visas to work on these farms, because, there's already a major problem with this. Many farmers have celebrated changes made to the increase in popular visa program H-2A, noting the difficulty in hiring American workers and tough economic conditions in the industry. Here's the problem, though. Here is the problem. Only 0.4% of farmers in California reported losing workers directly to farm raids. So a very small percentage of the farmers. But according to a new survey, more than 14% of the raids and general anxiety surrounded, but more than 14% of the farms, 14% of the farms said raids and general anxiety surrounding enhanced immigration enforcement caused worker shortages. Among labor-intensive crops like fruits and vegetables, the number is nearly 20%. So basically, 1/5 of farmers in California have basically had a labor problem. But you're missing the problem, and that is the problem. The problem is you can sit there and say, we're not going to raid you now, but your little Gestapo force of ICE doesn't care about paperwork. They don't care about legality. They're just looking for the color of people's skin. And so you can give these people these H-2A or the visa, H-2A visas. You can get them the H-2A visas, but if the ICE agents are going to say, I don't care what your visa says, you're not white, so you're coming with us, and they end up spending 6 months in jail until someone says, oh, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I guess you were legal. Then it doesn't do anything. And so unless the Trump administration is admitting that they have told ICE not to raid farms, which maybe they have, and we haven't heard about that. But unless they've done that, you're not going to fill these holes because, frankly, nobody wants to come here now and do this work.
And so my guess is eventually it's going to be the return of the chain gang and prison labor, because these farms are going to, especially when you start getting farms who are big Republican donors and they can't get the workers they need at the rate they do. Well, I think the only option you're going to look at is forced labor at that point, and probably through the prison system. That's what it is. But once again, the construction industry, the ag industry, the impacts of ICE are now apparent, and both of them are having a hard time finding workers. Good job, Trump. You're a massive freaking idiot. Native Roots Radio is up next. We are back tomorrow on a Wednesday. Till then, see ya.
Hi, this is Frank Brown of Minuteman Press Uptown with a question for our listeners. How important are business values